My $800 billion project will light up Africa and build a world of pride and power, showing Africa can lead with its own strength.
In the heart of West Africa,
$1 billion hydroelectric vision will not simply flick on lights across Africa. It will ignite a continent-wide transformation, forging a new era of pride, power, and unshakable self-determination. Picture this, in the heart of West Africa, where scorched dunes meet jagged escarpments, lies Burkina Faso, a modest landlocked country long consigned to the margins of global consciousness. For decades, this nation of resilient souls endured an unrelenting trio of hardships: crushing poverty, chronic resource scarcity, and the absence of basic lifelines, electricity and clean water, once taken for granted elsewhere. In its remote hamlets, the sun's retreat at dusk signaled the onset of literal darkness. Families huddled around sputtering candles and kerosene lamps. School children abandoned their lessons under feeble flickers, and nurses in understaffed clinics listened helplessly as ventilators and sterilizers fell silent. Each blackout was a harsh reminder that without reliable power, livelihoods withered and dreams died. But today, that grim chapter is drawing to a close. Captain Ibrahim Traoré's visionary blueprint goes far beyond floodgates and turbines. It is a bold proclamation of independence, a defiant declaration that Africa need no longer wait for outsiders to grant its people the means of progress. Along the sinuous course of the Mohand River, engineers and laborers, equipped with imported know-how yet propelled by local resolve, are erecting 11 colossal dams, each an architectural marvel carved from granite bedrock and fortified by thousands of tons of steel-reinforced concrete. These giant structures will feed into an intelligent, continent-spanning electrical grid capable of channeling clean, renewable energy to 15 West African nations, an unprecedented feat of regional cooperation and engineering prowess. Imagine the moment when concrete finally cures and the first turbine roars to life, its massive rotor blades slicing through white-foamed currents and generating megawatts of power that surge down transmission lines, lighting homes that have gone decades. Without a single switch, schools will extend their hours, illuminated by LEDs that cast steady pools of light over eager students. Hospitals will run life-saving equipment, X-rays, incubators, surgical suites, unfettered by the threat of sudden darkness. Factories that once ground to a halt with every outage will hum with continuous production, fueling small businesses and export industries. Farms will leverage electric pumps to coax water from aquifers and drive modern irrigation systems, transforming once parched fields into lush expanses of millet, rice, and horticultural crops ripe for both local markets and international export. Critics once sneered at the audacity of an $800 billion budget for a country whose GDP barely nudges into the tens of billions. They labeled it a pipe dream, an outrage of misallocation. Yet Traoré saw what many could not: untapped rivers brimming with energy, a populace eager to participate in nation-building, and the inevitability that true sovereignty demands control over one's own resources. Rather than beg Western capitals for loans laden with strings, he looked south and east, welcoming technical partnerships with Cuba, Iran, and Brazil, each bringing specialized expertise in dam construction, grid management, and renewable energy research. These alliances stand as testimony to a new Africa, one that selects its collaborators based on mutual respect and shared ambition, rather than former Cold War rivalries or neo-colonial leverage. TO fully appreciate the stakes. Consider Burkina Faso's past. Once known as Upper Volta under French rule, independence in 1960 replaced colonial chains with domestic challenges. Unfenced frontiers that invited smuggling, unpredictable rainfall that made subsistence farming a gamble, and power cuts so routine that even urban centers like Ouagadougou found themselves plunged into candlelit isolation several times a week. Beyond the city limits, the scene was starker still. Villagers cooked over smoky wood fires, children studied by the dancing light of kerosene lamps, and health posts risked every patient's life on the mercy of a reciprocating diesel generator. Now, as these 11 dams take shape, each positioned strategically to harness the river's descending gradient, Their interconnected design ensures that water cascading through one facility becomes the feedstock for the next, like a chain of giant turbines set in perpetual motion by the lifeblood of the Mohound. Spillways and precision gates will modulate flow to prevent both catastrophic floods in the rainy season and crippling scarcity in the dry months. Advanced control centers, staffed by a burgeoning class of Burkinabe engineers, will monitor every kilowatt in real time, balancing supply and demand across borders with algorithms that learn and adapt. This canal of independence is more than nuts, bolts, and cables. It is the manifesto of a people who have tired of waiting. By building this infrastructure with their own hands, forging international partnerships on equal footing, and investing in local talent, Burkina Faso is lighting a beacon not just for itself, but for every African nation yearning to reclaim its narrative. In demonstrating that real power, electric, economic, and political, springs from self-reliance, Captain Traoré's hydroelectric vision is charting a blueprint for a continent ready to lead rather than follow, to innovate rather than imitate, and to stand tall on its own terms. Burkina Faso's journey toward progress was long stifled by darkness and dependency. In remote clinics, surgeons once huddled around flickering candles. Ventilators and sterilizers lay silent as power lines failed. Villages that should have hummed with life each dawn lay muted under sunrise's glow, their people trapped between hope and helplessness. Politically, the country endured a carousel of coups and leadership upheavals, each shake-up fracturing budgets, halting development projects, and eroding investor confidence. Foreign aid arrived in intermittent waves, its relief tempered by unspoken ultimatums. Buy this oil, purchase that equipment, open your markets to our companies. Those strings tethered Burkina Faso to the whims of distant capitals, perpetuating a cycle in which no homegrown vision could ever fully take root. When Captain Ibrahim Traoré assumed the reins in 2022, emerging from the turmoil of a military coup, public frustration had reached fever pitch. Traoré vowed to break those chains, not with rhetoric, but with electricity. He saw in every kilowatt the power to unlock Burkina Faso's own potential, and by extension, catalyze a West African renaissance. From that conviction rose an $800 billion hydroelectric scheme, 11 gargantuan dams strung like pearls along the Mohound River, each one feeding into a continent-spanning smart grid designed to transmit clean, reliable power to 15 nations. This wasn't a matter of erecting one or two scenic dams for show. It was a meticulously engineered network built to work in concert, day after day, decade after decade, to banish the flicker and sputter of unreliable grids once and for all, predictably. Skeptics jeered at the audacity of the price tag for what they deemed a modest economy. They labeled it a pipe dream and predicted failure. Yet Traoré refused to grovel for Western loans laden with punitive interest rates and strings attached. Instead, he looked to emerging partners, Cuba, Iran, Brazil, beckoning their engineers, hydrologists, and grid specialists to stand shoulder to shoulder with Burkinabe crews. Together, they would resurrect the ancient practice of harnessing water's kinetic force, once the purview of rudimentary watermills, on an industrial scale, powering schools, hospitals, factories, farms, and entire communities across borders. Each dam, situated at strategic points along the river's descent, is an engineering marvel. Crews blasted through rocky limestone outcrops, poured foundations reinforced with thousands of tons of steel rebar concrete, and erected colossal spillways and floodgates. These features, along with advanced sensors monitoring water pressure, flow rates, and weather patterns, ensure that torrential rainy season surges are tamed, while precious runoff is conserved for the parched dry months. The result: continuous, uninterrupted generation of electricity, impervious to the whims of an unpredictable climate. But these dams are merely the project's backbone. The true genius lies in the intelligent grid weaving West Africa into a single electrical ecosystem. Imagine a synaptic web of high-voltage transmission lines, each conductor embedded with fiber optic sensors, linked to AI-driven control centers. When Nigerian industries roar awake at dawn, the network automatically reallocates megawatts from less demanding sectors. When Togolese students burn midnight oil, the grid channels power to their villages. Sudden equipment failures? In milliseconds, backup solar arrays and battery storage kick in, maintaining flawless service. The days of multi-hour blackouts, or worse, multi-day outages, become relics of a bygone era. Thousands of Burkinabe workers, trained on the job, operate bulldozers, crane massive girders, calibrate turbines, and program the grid software. Algorithms. Each concrete pour, each cable splice, each control room terminal attended, forges a new generation of local technicians and engineers, instilling pride and expertise that will endure long after the project's completion. These same hands will one day design, maintain, and expand Africa's energy infrastructure without foreign supervision. In Traoré's eyes, electricity is not a privilege bestowed by aid agencies or imported hardware. It is a fundamental human right and the cornerstone of economic liberation. By harnessing its own rivers, cultivating homegrown talent, and partnering on equal terms with nations once relegated to the margins, Burkina Faso is proving a vital point. Self-reliance is not a nationalist slogan, but a sustainable strategy. As the dams rise and the lights come on across villages, towns, and bustling urban centers, the country stands as a beacon to neighbors and to the world that even the smallest nations can ignite a revolution of power, prosperity, and pride. When Ghana's factories roar to life at dawn, the smart grid instantly senses the surge in demand and reroutes megawatts to keep assembly lines humming without a hiccup. When Togolese students ignite their midnight lamps to tackle algebra under dim hostile lights, the network guarantees their LED bulbs remain steadfast, banishing flicker forever. Beneath this high-tech choreography, fields of solar arrays stand poised as guardians against any unexpected outage. Arrays that silently harvest sunlight by day and pour kilowatts back into the grid by night. In this bold new reality, blackouts are no longer a fact of life, but a relic consigned to history. This isn't some distant promise. It's happening now, in the rolling plains and dusty hamlets of West Africa. In remote villages that once lay in inky stillness by sunset, children now huddle over crisp textbooks illuminated by steady, cool-toned LEDs. Their eyes no longer strain against the stutter-step glow of kerosene lamps, and their parents no longer worry about respiratory illnesses from wood smoke fumes. At understaffed rural clinics, powerful ventilators and state-of-the-art X-ray machines hum without the grating growl of diesel generators, enabling medical teams to perform life-saving procedures at any hour. In Segu's bustling markets, traders swipe smartphones to process digital payments, expand their customer base online, and manage inventory in real time, no longer frozen out by intermittent power. Out in Mopti's parched farmlands, farmers flip switches on submersible pumps that coax groundwater up through irrigation hoses, turning dusty plots into verdant rice paddies and vibrant tomato fields, crops that would previously have withered under weeks-long dry spells. And the economic tremors extend well beyond homes and clinics. This grid surge is fueling the largest jobs boom in Burkina Faso's history. Over 1.5 million people, from cement mixers and rebar welders to software coders and control room operators, are now employed directly on the project. Young women who once saw migration to Dakar or Paris as their only escape are training as civil engineers. Former seasonal laborers are mastering the intricate art of turbine calibration and predictive maintenance. Captain Traoré insisted on local hiring quotas and vocational academies built adjacent to construction camps, ensuring that every cement truck driver, every electrical technician, and every data analytics intern is a proud Burkinabe. The resulting sense of collective ownership and national pride is palpable. Each concrete pour, each fiber optic splice, feels like a vote cast for the country's own bright future. Meanwhile, global innovators are flocking to this energy revolution. Over 40 green tech firms, specializing in wind turbine design, battery storage R&D, and off-grid solar microgrids, have established regional HQs within sight of the dams. Collaborative labs now spring up where Burkinabe apprentices work alongside German software architects and Chinese battery engineers, co-developing next-generation storage solutions that promise to eliminate the cost of expensive power conversion. It has earned the region the nickname Africa's Silicon Valley of Energy, a title once unthinkable for a nation best known only for its gold mines and dusty crossroads. Yet the most dramatic ripple effect has been on agriculture. With reliable, round-the-clock electricity powering pumps and drip irrigation systems, farmers can now plant and harvest multiple crop cycles per year. Mango orchards that once produced a single, meager season after the rainy months now yield fruit heavy enough to be sent fresh by refrigerated truck to Dubai's luxury markets. Rice paddies in the eastern plains, once abandoned during the dry season, now buzz with the hum of electric pumps sustaining water levels, producing surplus grain that feeds local communities and earns foreign exchange when shipped to European importers. That extra income is transforming lives. Families that lived in single-room mud huts are building concrete homes with tin roofs. Parents who could barely afford school fees are sending 2 or 3 children through secondary and tertiary education. And entire villages are reinvesting in community centers, clean water kiosks, and telemedicine hubs. The smart grid's impact resonates well beyond Burkina Faso, too. As the electrical highway extends to Ghana, Mali, Niger, Togo, and beyond, factories across West Africa run uninterrupted, powering everything from textile looms in Accra to agro-processing plants in Bamako. Digital entrepreneurs in Dakar launch fintech startups from solar-powered co-working spaces. Universities in Niamey hold virtual lectures over fiber-optic connected campuses. An emergent West African economic zone, once fragmented by unreliable power, now moves in sync. Its nations no longer hamstrung by energy scarcity, but energized by the freedom to innovate, trade, and grow together. This is more than a grid upgrade or a jobs program. It is a tectonic shift in the region's narrative. Electricity, once a luxury doled out in erratic rationing, is now a universal right and a catalyst for the next generation of African leaders, farmers, and technologists. As the humming turbines and humming cables knit 15 countries into a single power community, Burkina Faso stands proud as the spark that proved a modest, landlocked nation could light the path for an entire continent. Global investors aren't just taking notice. They're racing to stake their claim in West Africa's unfolding energy revolution. Solar panel manufacturers are setting up local assembly lines. Logistics companies are contracting fleets of specialized transport vehicles, and agribusiness conglomerates are financing large-scale irrigation schemes powered by the new grid. Together, these investments are creating tens of thousands of direct and indirect jobs, from factory assembly workers and truck drivers to warehouse managers and distribution planners, helping to lift entire communities out of poverty. What was once a remote, landlocked country struggling under the weight of resource scarcity is now the beating heart of innovation, economic growth, and shared prosperity for millions of people across the region and around the globe. When Captain Ibrahim Traoré first unveiled this audacious $800 billion plan, the world's pundits scoffed, dismissing it as an impossible fantasy for a modest economy. Yet today, as the first dam towers stretch toward the sky and high-voltage lines snake across borders, that same global audience sits up and takes notice. The project is teaching a powerful lesson: real ambition, self-reliance, and a bold vision rooted in local expertise and natural resources can rewrite an entire nation's destiny and, by extension, reshape the rules of international development. Indeed, countries like China, Russia, and India have all tipped their hats in admiration and are even scrambling to join the effort. Beijing has pledged investments in cutting-edge satellite energy labs and research centers to drive innovation in grid management and energy storage. Moscow is dispatching specialized civil engineering brigades and hydropower experts to fast-track dam construction and dam safety protocols. New Delhi is negotiating for direct wheeling rights, agreements that would allow India to draw gigawatts of clean power across trans-Saharan transmission lines to support its rapidly growing economy. These partnerships send a clear signal. Burkina Faso has graduated from a charitable afterthought to a strategic, respected player in the global energy arena. Meanwhile, Western nations that once overlooked Burkina Faso are now clamoring for a seat at the table. The European Union, keen to diversify its renewable energy portfolio, is exploring a proposed $20 billion under-Sahara transmission corridor, an ambitious undersea-style electrical highway that would carry surplus megawatts northward from Ouagadougou, all the way to Morocco, Spain, and ultimately feed into Europe's increasingly greening grid. No one anticipated that a small, landlocked nation in the Sahel would emerge as a critical exporter in the global energy market. Yet here we are. Burkina Faso's clean energy dams and smart grid are rewriting geographic and geopolitical expectations. This project transcends mere infrastructure. It's the ultimate statement of independence and economic sovereignty. For centuries, Africa's mineral and agricultural wealth was extracted by colonial powers with little benefit for local populations. Captain Traoré's vision shatters that paradigm. Every megawatt generated by these dams erodes the old pattern of dependency. Every partnership with emerging economies like Cuba, Iran, or Brazil replaces exploitative raw materials deals with mutually beneficial cooperation. Today, Burkina Faso negotiates from strength, setting its own terms, and choosing partners who respect its sovereignty and contribute to its development goals. Don't mistake this for a minor regional upgrade. It's a full-blown geopolitical earthquake. Traoré's $800 billion hydroelectric initiative is more than turbines and transmission lines. It is a generational legacy designed to restore dignity, light homes, power hospitals, and empower every Burkinabe to pursue their dreams. He didn't launch this project to impress foreign leaders or to collect international trophies. He did it to show the world that Africa need not wait for permission. It will build its own future, megawatt by megawatt. Fast forward a decade, Burkina Faso will be transformed. The dams and smart grid will fuel high-speed rail lines connecting Ouagadougou to Bobo Dioulasso in under 90 minutes, and even linked to neighboring capitals such as Niamey and Bamako. Entire green cities will rise, powered entirely by renewable energy, complete with modern apartment complexes, energy-efficient public buildings, and electric vehicle charging stations. Digital classrooms, outfitted with satellite internet, will train the next generation of entrepreneurs, software developers, and data scientists. Vertical farms and urban towers will supply fresh produce year-round, boosting food security and creating thousands of urban agriculture jobs. Young Burkinabe, once forced to seek work abroad, will now find rewarding careers right at home, as engineers, researchers, and executives, thanks to the foundation we lay today. Already, Burkina Faso's success is inspiring its neighbors. Niger is drafting an ambitious plan to harness the River Niger's flow for clean power. Togo is exploring offshore wind and solar hybrids. Sierra Leone is mapping out small-scale hydro projects in its forested highlands. Captain Traoré's vision has ignited a continent-wide movement. Africa no longer waits for solutions to be imported. It generates them internally with its own leaders, workforce, and innovations. The $800 billion hydroelectric project marks just the beginning of West Africa's transformation. As dams rise and the smart grid expands, the region is evolving into a unified powerhouse where access to electricity is a universal right, not a luxury. Villages that once lay in darkness now glow with opportunity. Businesses that once sputtered in the dark now hum with productivity. Young people who once saw no future now build it themselves. This is more than an energy revolution. It is a revolution of hope, possibility, and continental pride. Burkina Faso's journey is showing the world that a nation need not beg for permission to succeed. It can forge its own destiny, 1 megawatt at a time. If this story resonates with you, share it widely. Let the world know that Africa's future is bright and that it is being built by Africans for Africans.